What is going on, Raider Nation, man? We are live. And I'm sure you guys are all wondering, man, hey, Raider Ray, where did that intro go? Don't worry about it. Digital Perez is hooking up the audio. We had some copyright issues with the Bruce Buffer intro, and YouTube, they tried to get me. And you already know, look, for us that are new Raiders content creators, it's already hard enough to fight the YouTube algorithm. I don't need anything fighting against me. But no, man, we're all grateful over here, man. Plus 600 subscribers in 3 months, man. I can't be any more excited and more grateful. We're going to give Raider Nation a few minutes to pull up. I don't think that anybody else is going live right now, so we should be able to get some traffic here quickly. If you haven't yet, you guys subscribe to the channel. If this is your first time listening, man, smash this video with the like button. If you're in the chat, man, smash the like button. It helps more Raider fans find this. And look, we're looking forward to having a really fun night. Look, there's a lot to talk about, man. There's a lot of things going on in Raider Nation, and we are here to address it. Already, some of Raider Nation is already pulling up. We got Ruben Ortega, man. This is my very first subscriber. And look at the loyalty, man. Number one in the house. Shout out to you, Ruben Ortega, man. Look, man, we've come a long way, brother. And you were the very, very first one to subscribe. So much love to you. Also, my brother, who we talk on a daily basis, Sean Johnson. We always are talking about this roster, moves that the Las Vegas Raiders are making. And look, the Raiders have been active. There's so much news going on, and me and Sean are constantly going back and forth. How can the Raiders improve this roster? What kind of players are out there on the open market? What's going on in training camp? I mean, if you can think about it, and it's been out in the media narrative, me and Sean have been talking about it. So, man, I'm just so grateful that you guys decided to pull up tonight, man. There is a lot to talk about, right? And I'm really grateful and really excited. We got Raider 805 in the building, man. He says, salute, Ray. Shout out to you, Raider 805. Everybody that's in the chat, man, go over and let people know that Raider Ray is live and that we are the show that is on right now. We got a lot to talk about, y'all. This team is going crazy. There's so much to discuss. So we got people in the chat, man, pulling up. We are just going to jump straight into the show, and everybody else, man, they can pull up and we can update them with the conversation as we go on. So 10 of you are in the chat right now. We need to have 10 likes. So go over there to the like button, man. Smash that like button. We don't ask much from you guys. We should have 10 likes, hands down. So Chronicles of the Black Hole says, what's up, brother? What is going on, OG? I know it's random, but look, I just had the itch to come on and talk some Raiders football. I want to go live and just talk with my people, man. I appreciate the love from Raider Nation, and I'm so excited. I think tonight is going to be one of those great shows where Raider Nation's involved. We open up the Q&A where you guys ask me all things about the Raiders. And, man, let's just talk about the things that is going on with this roster. Sean Johnson says, you picked a good night to go live. There's really no one else. And that's right, man. We're going to hold down the fort tonight. Hey, Raider Ray just stepped in tonight. I know all the other guys are busy making content, and they're doing a phenomenal job about it. Let Raider Ray come through here and entertain Raider Nation a little bit, right? So everybody, if you haven't liked the video, subscribe to the channel. We're about to get started with the show. Raider 805 says to salute OG. If you guys haven't, go over to OG's channel, subscribe to him if you want all the historic background of the Las Vegas Raiders. That is your show. OG is my guy. He gave me my first voice on a live show. So always much love to OG, man. Go over and check it out. So look, Raider Nation, we got a lot to talk about when it comes to this. Okay. And first and foremost, we're going to address the Josh Jacobs situation with the trade market. Look, none of that was ever going to happen. A lot of fake news going on out there. And Josh Jacobs is a guy who's going to be vital in this Raiders offense moving forward. I mean, I really expect Josh Jacobs to have a full season. I mean, I'm talking he should be able to stay healthier, a lot more healthy than what he's stayed in recent season. Let's just be completely honest. With the amount of running backs that are in the backfield, I really do suspect that Josh Jacobs is going to have a really big year. Not to mention he's going into a contract situation where he has an opportunity to go out there and earn quite a bit of money for himself. So look for Josh Jacobs to not want to go anywhere. He's going to want to suit up for the silver and black and put his best foot forward. And I think with the scheme changes up front, I think in the first preseason game, it just benefits everybody. Let's see here. I got to get to the chat here. Raiders 602, Alfredo in the house. Yo, salute my brother Ray. El Capitan Rafael has arrived. What is going on, Rafael? DeMarcus in the building. What's good, Ray? Thoughts on free agent defensive tackle now that Sheldon signed with KZ? Linval Joseph. We're actually going to get into that, and we are going to be talking a lot of things. So going back a little bit on the Josh Jacobs situation, I think, look, can we all just be real quick? If anybody is on the trade block right now coming out of the running back room, and I know he's carrying dead cap. If anybody, it's got to be Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake really underwhelmed me. And look, I understand he's coming off of the ankle injury. He's not there 100% mentally. It just looked like he was afraid of contact a little bit, if I'm being honest, Raider Nation. But when all the running backs are averaging above a 4 or 5 yards per carry, and then you got Kenyon Drake, who he had a horrible night, guys. Let's just keep it honest. I mean, Zeus really emerged, and a guy who I'm thinking, look, if Josh McDaniels is dead serious about the best players are going to make this 53-man roster, regardless of salary cap, regardless of where they were drafted. I want to see if this holds true. I really want to see if this holds true. Kenyon Drake is not showing right now, okay? And it's still extremely early, so I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, but I can only talk about what we've seen so far. Kenyon Drake is just not offering that much. And Amir Abdullah is really stepping up. Today at Raiders practice, on the one-on-one drills, Jared Stidham hits Amir Abdullah in the back of the end zone going up against Denzel Perryman. And Amir Abdullah is just one of those guys that's getting promoted. A lot of guys are talking about him, about how he's showing up in practice, showing up in the games. And, dude, he brought some juice. He was electric, and he's a great veteran third down running back. I'm just saying he's someone you're going to have to take an eye at and look if he can make the roster, because right now, if you're regardless of the salary cap, regardless of the cap hit, he's offering more and he's bringing more to the Raiders offense than Kenyon Drake right now. Raider 805 says, after Parker, we really need a veteran right tackle, and look for the Raiders to address that. Now, I do think that there is somebody on the roster right now who is the true swing tackle for the Las Vegas Raiders, and it's a guy by the name of Jermaine Illuminor. I would really encourage you guys to go back, watch the preseason game. I've watched the preseason game now about 4 times in a row, really dissected a lot of players, and we'll kind of talk about some of those names tonight. But Jermaine Illuminor, man, the left and right side, and you can even kick him inside and play guard. He played guard for the Raiders and the Patriots and really held it down for the Raiders when they asked him to step up last season. At right tackle, this guy looks great. I mean, he's good with his technique. Yeah, is he not? He's not the fastest with his first step, but you guys, he's so serviceable. I mean, this is an average starting right tackle in the National Football League, if you ask me, and right now the Raiders could use that. So Jermaine Illuminor is a guy who I would love, and I encourage you guys, these next preseason games, focus in on him, because with Brandon Parker being out, Jermaine Illuminor's reps are going to step up, and it's a guy that the offensive line room is really high on. Jermaine is one of those guys, right? When you're talking about versatility, this guy is that. I mean, he's what Denzel Good was for this team a few seasons ago. Jermaine Illuminor can play guard, he can play tackle, and look for him to step up and really emerge as that true swing tackle. But a veteran right tackle that's on the market, look, you can go and get Darrell Williams. I mean, he's going to cost you. I do believe that the Raiders should sit tight for a minute, and maybe if you're trying to address that situation, say you're not looking forward to moving with Jermaine Illuminor, because Jermaine Illuminor can hold that spot down for the foreseeable future, for the short term, if that's the route you're wanting to go. Now, I think you can wait 2 more weeks, and when these teams start to release guys, you can go out and get a guy that you can really coach up. Or you could give Chicago a ring and see what they're asking for Tevin Jenkins and just bring him in and let it be another young guy that Coach Priscillo gets his hands on, and let's see what he could do. I mean, he feels like a Raider, right? Coming out of the draft, I was so high on Tevin Jenkins. I wanted the Raiders to go out and get him. He's just nasty mauler in the run game. Does a lot of things of what Coach McDaniels is wanting to do with the Raiders this season, being really physical and aggressive at the line of scrimmage and playing power gap football, which I think Tevin Jenkins would do remarkable with the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, we'll see where he's at when it comes to development on pass protection, which I think that's what the Raiders need right now, which is why I like a guy like Jermaine Illuminor. Thayer Mumford is a guy to keep an eye on, but, I mean, he graded out virtually identical to what Brandon Parker did, and they kind of feel like the same guy in a little bit of a sense. And I know I might get some hate on that, but Thayer Mumford and Brandon Parker, when I was watching it, it just kind of felt a little bit similar. Let's see what Sean Johnson says here. I think we might have the deepest running back room in the NFL this year, so we can really wear down defenses late in games, especially if we have the lead this season. And they're still working out running backs. And what's really encouraging, like what's really surprising actually, is that the Raiders are still hosting running backs in for workouts. So what's going on with Kenyon Drake? What's going on with Britton Brown? Is Brandon Bolden really injured? Like, what is going on with the running back room with all that depth that you have created? Why are we continually bringing in guys? I know you might rest some guys, so these are just going to be camp bodies just to get reps in the preseason moving forward for maybe some guys that are kind of banged up. But I'm really curious to see if they actually go out there and sign this guy. Now, look, the Raiders worked out Danny Shelton, right? Nose tackle. And that tells me that, look, they need a body up front. And I'm kind of curious to where Jonathan Hankins is with his injury. I know that report was set out that he was looking forward to coming back here in the next coming days, along with Trayvon Mullen and Bilal Nichols. And really, the biggest name of those two is Bilal Nichols. I really want to see him get healthy, at least start getting back into warming up and getting back in that ramp up period to get him ready for week one. If he doesn't play any preseason snaps, you guys, I'm honestly okay with that. I want to get him repped up and healthy for week one because that's when we're going to really need him the most. And a guy like Jonathan Hankins, look, we've talked about it this entire offseason. In this 3-4 base, you're going to need a dominant nose tackle, a guy who's a space eater, a guy who can take on double teams, which is why the Raiders went out and got a guy like Neil Farrell Jr. A guy that's on the market is Linval Joseph. You know what I mean? You've got him. You've got a Sheldon Richardson, another guy who I think could come in, a veteran player who has seen a lot of football, who could really coach up Neil Farrell Jr. Wouldn't cost that much money. Obviously, we all know that Ndamukong Suh is still on the market. And look, hats off to Ndamukong because, I mean, he played the leverage game and it looks like it's working for him, right? It looks like for the Raiders, at least in the Raiders situation, and I'm sure that the Raiders have kept Ndamukong Suh on a close, on a short leash when it comes to communication. I'm sure they've been in contact about their nose tackle situation. And look, you can honestly say it's lining up for his favor. Now, I think you can go out and address a nose tackle position and not have to spend that much money. But when you're talking about the name, the production, everything, Ndamukong Suh is the best available one. But Linval Joseph, Sheldon Richardson, maybe some guys that are going to get cut from their teams coming up here shortly. Maybe you can take a look at the free agent market then. Not necessarily an emergency, just because these games that we're playing right now aren't of any importance. A lot of these young guys are getting reps. Neil Farrell, Matthew Butler, Billings, all these guys are getting reps, and they're doing pretty well. They need to get a lot more push. So, yeah, defensive tackle is an area where we're going to have to address. We're going to have to test the market and see what's out there if we want to really compete and get disruptive. Look, we were relying on a lot of our linebackers last week to really make the tackles in the run game. Our defensive line was not getting a ton of push. Outside of Malcolm Kuntz, Green, and Bowser sometimes late in the fourth quarter, Zach Van Valkenburg got involved as well. You really got to create more depth on the interior of this defensive line and potentially address that right tackle. James Furpo says, "What up, Ray? Salute to the chat. Salute nation. Raiders." And that's right, baby. We're bringing the energy tonight. And we got everybody in the chat. If you guys haven't, moderators, let the chat know. Go over and smash the like button, man. It's how more Raider fans find this show. And right now, we're the only show live. So let's go entertain the nation, man. Go smash the like button. We don't ask much from you guys. Moving into the news today, right? Camp fight. Max Crosby, Dylan Parham getting involved. You got to love it, right? You could tell that the intensity, you could tell that these guys are really ramping up training camp, and it's starting, that feeling of week one is starting to draw near, right? We're about a month away. And these players are feeling that the intensity in camp is really picking up. Max Crosby, Dylan Parham getting into, and you got to love it from the young rookie, right? Getting scrappy, getting in there and battling with a guy like Max Crosby. This is only going to make him better. It's much like these defensive backs, guys like Nate Hobbs going against Devontae Adams each and every single day. Dylan Parham going against Max Crosby is only going to make him better. Going against Chandler Jones is only going to make you better. I love that these guys are getting chippy. That means that there's competition brewing, and you got to love to see it. Now, I don't want to see these guys constantly fighting and there be any beef. That's not what any of this is. Max Crosby and Dylan Parham are competitors at the highest level. And speaking about Dylan Parham, man, look, Victor, you're still new to the Raiders Report on YouTube, bro. I'm sure you're going to grow. Raiders are a different team this year. There's so much talent in the roster. Who knows what's to come? Keep it up. Hey, I appreciate you, brother. Look, yeah, and we've grown rapidly over here, Victor. So I mean, 600 subs in a little over 3 months. I mean, I'm grateful. You know what I mean? I love the community that we've created. These live shows are absolutely remarkable. I love to get to pull up and talk with the nation. So, Victor, if you're not subscribed to the channel, man, I'd really encourage you. I'm sure a lot of new eyes are going to get brought to this channel tonight with us being the only live show. And that's good, man. That's a great thing. So if you're not yet subscribed, we're going to continue to put in the work. Regardless of my numbers, my subscriber counts, my views, I'm going to be putting out the best Raiders content that I can possibly do. And you're always going to get an honest opinion out of me. And I'm going to be blunt and raw with it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to ever hold anything back. So that's what you're getting over here. And you always have a voice here, Victor. Always. Raphael says, also, today is my birthday. I'm turning 29. Well, everybody in the chat, man, say happy birthday to Raphael. Happy birthday, my brother. I hope all is well. God bless you, brother. And I'm glad that you're healthy and you're here to see another year. Defensive tackle Steve McLennan is out there too. And that's another good name to take a look at. And look, there are a few veterans out there, right, Sean? There's a few routes that we could go with this. I would kind of be patient a little bit. If you're not going to go out and get a Linval Joseph, if you're not going to go get an Ndamukong Suh, you can kind of be patient a little bit. None of these guys are getting rushed to being signed yet. And it's also one of those things where you don't want to wait too long, right? You don't want a team like the Cleveland Browns or someone to get a significant injury to a nose tackle position who have cap space available with their organization, that something comes up and now the best talent that's on the open market is now shored up, but the Raiders also don't want to go out there and just spend a ton of money on a position that really you could go bring in a guy or two for the price of Ndamukong Suh and probably get by okay. So I'm really curious to see what the Raiders are going to do when it comes to the nose tackle position, because it is an area that does need to be addressed. Rafael says, I can't wait for the Raiders season. Let's go. Carlos in the building. What is going on, Carlos? He says, Raider Nation for life. My boy, Van City Raider, bro. I hope that the wife is doing good. He says, what's good, Ray? How you doing, my brother? I'm doing better than what I deserve, bro. So I'm grateful to be here with you guys and spending the evening with you and just talking all things Raiders, man. We got a lot to talk about tonight, and I'm really excited to be with you guys. Anthony is in the building, you guys. He says, Ray, what's good, boy? How you doing? I'm glad you're here with me, bro. Van says, happy birthday to Ralph. Happy birthday, Raider brother. I'm going to subscribe to you. I appreciate you, brother. Hey, we're growing day by day. It's time to pony up the dough for Ndamukong Suh. And at this point, if you're wanting to make those moves and you're wanting to make the splash, you're wanting to solidify pressure on the interior, after seeing that first preseason game and the lack of push that we were getting up front with Neil Farrell Jr., Matthew Butler, you got to kind of raise the question, what all is just Bilal Nichols going to bring? Is he going to bring enough when it comes to that nose tech? Is he going to bring enough push? And I think that he is a very serviceable pass rusher. But I do think you have something here, Van City. I think it is time to maybe open up the bag a little bit and go get a guy like Ndamukong Suh, a guy who you know is going to push the pocket, and look for a move to be made within the next week or so on the front of Ndamukong Suh. I do expect him to sign as closer that week one comes, maybe a week or two prior to the season kicking off. If the Raiders are going to go get him, that's the time that they're going to do it. Right now, they're taking a look at a lot of these young guys, but I'm kind of getting in the same boat with you. Look, I don't need him. I'm not going to sit here and beg for Ndamukong Suh. I've been saying that for the longest time. But look, you have the money and you have a need at the interior of this defensive line. And if you want to create a pass rush from the interior, you might want to give Ndamukong Suh a call and make that man a Raider. Anthony says, I'm glad the footage of the Crosby versus O-line brawl didn't get leaked. I would get irritated by all the stupid takes and YouTubers and comment. I agree, man. That's why I didn't make a video, y'all, about the whole Josh Jacobs thing. I mean, I couldn't believe the amount of content that was getting put out over that. And it's no hate to nobody else, man. A lot of this is a business now for a lot of people. But look, Josh Jacobs is not going anywhere. And the fact that you would think just because Josh McDaniels has shown that he's put guys out in the preseason before to get some work. He's just one of those types of coaches. Now, I do understand that he did the same thing with Sony Michel before trading him to the Rams. I get that, but that doesn't mean that that's going to be the case for every single player moving forward. You guys got to understand that. So, working behind a new line and a new system, new terminology, just get some game reps, get used to some contact a little bit. And let's be honest, Josh Jacobs is a guy who hasn't got a lot of contact in preseason before, and then he gets that big workload week one, and in those weeks 1 through 5, you guys question why he's struggling with injuries, and it's because he hasn't taken this kind of contact. So over the next 4 weeks, if you can get his body used to taking a little bit of damage, then let him do that. You know what I'm saying? Richard says, just dropping to show love to my brother Ray and much love to the family in the chat. Much love to you, Richard. I hope you get to stick around, man. Anthony says no need for that garbage to get leaked. And that's right. I mean, keep that all in house. Keep that so these guys they all know what happened. They all know what was said. Let them go out there and compete, man. This is where football teams, this is football. I mean, this isn't some soft league. This isn't some soft sport. These guys are going to get chippy. These guys are out here working for a job each and every single day. And a lot of these guys are competing for a spot on the roster. And when you start getting your butt handed to you a little bit by Max Crosby, it gets to you a little bit. And you start losing in 100-degree weather, then it really starts getting to you a little bit. So I heard that Dylan Parham gave up no pressure in the Hall of Fame game. And yeah, he's one of the guys that I went back. Like I said, I watched the Hall of Fame game about 4 times now. And I went back and watched Dylan Parham. And I have to say this. I'm really surprised and I'm really encouraged of what I've seen out of Dylan Parham. With that being said, I think he is your solidified backup center, and I do think he's your backup guard. I'm not ready to say that he's ready to go. Now, it's week 1 of preseason. There's a lot of growth, and there's going to be the joint practice with the New England Patriots. I mean, the Raiders have 3 football games and a joint practice in the next 18 days. That's a lot of activity. So the Raiders have a huge opportunity, you guys, to go out there and get better when it comes to the offensive line, especially these young guys. So can Dylan Parham earn a spot? Of course he could. But the things I talked about in the offseason, talking about Dylan Parham's game, is stuff that the bad aspect of it, right? Getting up into the second level, really moving and resetting the line of scrimmage was something I had concerns about Dylan Parham about, and it kind of popped up in film. Now, he did good in pass protection. You're right, Sean. He did really good in pass protection. The run game, he was able to get his hands on people a little bit. There's a lot to like about his game. There's a lot that I liked on film about Dylan Parham, and there's a lot of things that he could work on, which is a good thing. I mean, this kid he has a ton of potential. And I'm thinking next year and the year after, you're really going to see big growth from Dylan Parham. I just want him to take this rookie year and get this experience, get as many reps as possible, get behind those veteran linemen, get in the pocket of Coach Bersillo, really understand what he wants you to do. And you got to think Dylan Parham's out there learning not only one position, he's learning both guard positions and center position. So a lot is being asked of him. And shout out to Dylan Parham for having the ability to take all that in mentally, physically. It's a lot for a rookie, and he's really, really showing that he's able to take care of it. I mean, scraps happen, it's normal, but all the stupid takes and comments would just have me cringing, without a shadow of a doubt, bro. I'm addressing it live, but I'm addressing it as a look. I love it. Let these guys go out there and compete. Let them be chippy. That's what Raider football is all about. I want an aggressive, feisty team. That's all my take is. Boom Cat. I love this. He came up with this, you guys. So maybe this is something that we could start creating in the chat. My last name's Ray, R-A-Y. So he says Raiders. I love it, man. I love the creativity. Snoop is in the house. Salute Raider Ray, Raider Nation. Hey, salute to you, Snoop. I love seeing you pull up. I love when you interact with the show, brother. You always bring interesting takes and good conversation. So, brother, I appreciate you pulling up. Boomcat says Josh Jacobs trade talk is all media hype. 100%, bro. It's garbage. It's garbage if you ask me. I'm not tuning into it. I'm not buying into it. I think Josh Jacobs is going to be a Raider. I think he's going to have a pretty big year. Now, outside of this season, I've said it before, I think that this is his last season in the silver and black, unless he really wants to be a Raider and takes a team-friendly deal, which I don't necessarily see. When free agency comes, you guys, you don't have long, especially at the running back position, to go and cash in and go get your money. Josh Jacobs is going to have one heck of a season, and he's going to go out there and earn a pretty nice contract for another organization. And shout out to Josh Jacobs for that, man. But for the time being, he's a member of the Silver and Black, and I got Josh Jacobs back all day, and I'm riding with him for the 2022 season. Van City Raider says, Ray, thoughts on Roquan Smith? And look, this is another video that I'm not going to just pump out and make. I'm not out here trying to clickbait nobody. Look, Roquan Smith is not going to be a Raider. A lot of people in that Chicago Bear organization wants out. Tevin Jenkins, Roquan Smith, Robert Quinn. If you're asking me if anybody I want to go to the Chicago Bears and trade for, it's Tevin Jenkins or Roquan Smith. Or not Roquan Smith, I'm sorry, Robert Quinn. Robert Quinn finished with 18.5 sacks last year. I don't think you have to give up too much for him. He is an aging veteran. You can never have too much pass rush, especially outside of Malcolm Kuntz. The depth is a little bit wishy-washy. You go out and address a veteran defensive tackle at that nose technique and go get Robert Quinn. I think you solidify the pass rush and the interior. But Roquan Smith, look, he's a young, really good football player, Van, and I really like Roquan's game a lot. I would love to see him as a member of the Raiders, but the guy's looking for a new deal. The Raiders aren't going to have all that much cap space to allocate to extend him as well. Would I like to see it? Yes. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't. But Roquan Smith is a good linebacker, and whoever does make that move to go out and get him, barring any scheme fit issues, I think they're going to get a really, really, really good football player at the age of 25. We have to trust the process and not get antsy and panicky. The front office will make moves when they feel like it's the right person for them to be available for the right price. And I couldn't agree more. This is one of those comments I wish I could pin, because if anything has shown this entire offseason, Dave Ziegler, Champ Kelly, the guys in the front office, they know what they're doing. And if they were panicking and there was a real issue, now it does say something that they worked out nose tackle Danny Shelton. There is obviously a need because they want to be addressing it, but they're not panicking. They're seeing what's out there. So I agree with this take 100%. I trust Dave Ziegler. I trust Josh McDaniels to communicate, hey, we have a really big need. Patrick Graham needs this. He needs that. I need this on the offensive line. Go out there and get me something. I trust Dave Ziegler and Champ Kelly 110%, because look at what they've done this entire offseason. They've really constructed a good roster, and the Raiders are sitting in a pretty good position. Not only that, but look at the preparation and the accountability. And I know I'm not even going to talk about the accountability aspect, because I know a lot of people just regurgitate that information that they hear. I want to talk about preparation. And I don't know about you guys, but in that Hall of Fame game, the Raiders really looked like a team that was prepared. They didn't practice 3 days before that game, but just where they were with their assignments, the attention to tackles, the details, being where they were supposed to be. Now, they didn't play a perfect game, especially once we got towards that fourth quarter a little bit. Things in man coverage got a little sloppy. But the guys look prepared on a level that I haven't seen. And this is something that Brandon Marshall came out and said. Former players of Josh McDaniels is, hey, I've never been more prepared to play a football game than when Josh McDaniels was coaching me. And you have to love that, especially coming from us Raider fans who have seen teams that have had complete lack of preparation. So that's the aspect of the game that I'm really excited to see. Sean Johnson says Coach Bracillo should be able to get Parham better. He's a backup right now, but maybe next year or the year after. And I'm glad that you said that, Sean. I'm glad that you agreed that Dylan Parham is not a starter right now. I think he's a fan favorite, and I like Dylan Parham. So when I say this stuff, it's no hate on him. I just keep it real and I keep it honest. He's a backup right now. And I think if he was forced to start week 1, and when he starts to struggle or maybe has lapses in plays and gives up a sack or two, and you guys start talking about, oh, Dylan Parham's trash, why is he in the game? This is why we say pump the brakes a little bit and let these kids develop. In times past, the Raiders have had to have these young guys step up right away. Derek Carr, Max Crosby, Hunter Renfrow, Nate Hobbs, Trayvon Merrick, Jonathan Abram, Trayvon Mullen. I mean, you go down the Raiders roster, they've been forced to let these rookies start right away because the Raiders needed the rookies to step up immediately if they were going to compete. You're at a position now where those guys are established and they've really taken hold of that, right? It's either going to fail tremendously or it's going to help this Raiders roster significantly, giving these young guys a lot of reps. And you could say that the core foundation of this team really benefited from that. But you're in a position now where those guys are established veterans. You're drafting young players, and you can really let these guys have a natural blend on the roster, which is what I'm more wanting to see. I want to see Dylan Parham develop a little bit, get behind a guy like a Jermaine Illuminor, compete with Alex Leatherwood, learn from Andre James, and just soak up as much information his first rookie year, and then really take the ground and hit it running year 2, year 3, or year 4. That's where I see Dylan Parham making his biggest impact. I'd take a low second or high third for Josh Jacobs. That's if somebody was able to offer that. And right now, with us being in win now mode, I don't want to do it. I don't want to risk it. I don't want to risk something happening to Kenyon Drake or Zeus. Say Zeus gets an injury and now you're relying on Bolden. And I want to keep Josh Jacobs, and that's just me. Now, would I if they were to trade and to get compensation, would I like a second and a third? Absolutely. I would love that compensation if a team was willing to get that out. But I'm not looking to get rid of any of my players right now. You opened up that Super Bowl window. Keep the guys on your roster, especially on a $2 million a year for arguably a top 10 running back in Josh Jacobs. Keep him around and make a serious push. Keep him as healthy as possible. That way, come playoffs, you really have a healthy Josh Jacobs and you can really make a true run at this thing. Let's see here. He's our only good first round pick since Colton Miller. And I agree. Yoshi says the running back room excites me very much so. And I got to agree. Look, Amir Abdullah is having a fantastic offseason. I want Amir Abdullah to make the roster. And if anybody of you guys, I know we have new people on tonight, but if any of you guys have been following this channel, we've been talking about Amir Abdullah, that he's going to be competing for a spot on a 53-man roster around the National Football League. Now he's starting to make that case for the Raiders. He's outperforming Kenyon Drake. Let's just be honest. Let's always keep it real over here. He's outperforming Kenyon Drake right now. So if Josh McDaniels is true to his word about, hey, regardless of cap space, regardless of where you were drafted or how much money we're paying you, the best players are going to get a spot on this roster. Let's see if he holds his word, because right now Amir Abdullah is outperforming Kenyon Drake, and Kenyon Drake is probably the last spot on the roster right now. Anthony says, I love Jacobs, but it's tough. We can't pay him what he deserves, and it's true. And you don't need to. I mean, salute to Josh Jacobs for going out there and being a fun running back. I love Josh Jacobs' style. I love him as a person. I'm a fan of Josh Jacobs. So wherever he goes, as long as that's not in the AFC West, I'm going to root for him. And as long as he's not playing for the Raiders, it's unfortunate, right? You start to develop an attachment and a relationship with these players. They get better. They move on. Hey, you guys, it's a business. It is what it is. But we get one last ride with Josh Jacobs, right? One last ride in the 2022 season. So let's enjoy it, you guys. Anthony says we have a stable of running backs. Jacobs is gone next year. Why not get a second or third on a rookie deal for him now before he leaves? And like I said, it's because that window's open. Yes, can Zeus come in and contribute? Can you kind of get by with a committee of running backs? Yes, but Josh Jacobs is a closer in the fourth quarter. And this season, when you have a lead on teams, I want Josh Jacobs getting significant reps in the fourth quarter and really beating down defenses. You could really use Josh Jacobs to really pull off quite a bit of wins for the Raiders this year. He's going to be one of those guys that, since there's so much weapons allocated on the outside of this offense, Josh Jacobs is really going to be able to create a role for himself and have a huge, fantastic year. You can't just load up the boxes anymore on the Raiders. So Josh Jacobs is going to benefit from that. Not only that, but the scheme change up front, switching to this power gap scheme. I mean, you could see in the small sample size that Josh Jacobs had in that first preseason game. Do you really not want Josh Jacobs with what you were seeing on tape? I mean, you want a runner like that. Does John Simpson make the 53? 100%. John Simpson's going to be a starter on that left guard of this offensive line. And this is a guy who fits the power gap scheme as well. He's been taking advantage. And you can honestly say from the left side, Colton Miller, John Simpson, and Andre James, I feel like right now those guys are the locks to make the roster. The real competition on the offensive line is right guard or right tackle. Now, Lester Cotton's holding it down. Lester Cotton, man, shout out to him for getting the Samson Award this offseason and really probably being one of the most improved Raiders over the course of these last few seasons. Lester Cotton is out here putting in work, y'all, and on tape he looks really, really good. And if he can carry this over consistently for these next few preseason games, you're talking about Lester Cotton might be the starting guard come week one. Now, I do believe that a guy like Jermaine Illuminor could go in there and compete right away as well. I don't think he's out of the topic of conversation. You guys really need to focus on Jermaine Illuminor in the next coming weeks because I think he's really going to carve out a role for himself. Had a fantastic preseason game. They're sitting at 7 out of 10 roster-wise. We need 8, hopefully 9. Sean says, this is why I wanted us to draft Micah Parsons last year. It seems getting a young generational talent lockdown linebacker has been hard for us to get. Maybe that changes going forward. And if you're talking about the Roquan Smith situation, maybe. But I just don't see the Raiders going out and trading. Like I said, a fantastic player. And I would love to see him in the silver and black. I just don't think that the money allocated. I was with you. I wanted Micah Parsons as well. I thought he was just one of those dogs. Regardless, I know he had some off-the-field stuff going on. But look, some of that stuff can be hit or miss, right? There's a lot of false media narratives going out. So I don't even pay attention to those anymore. I turn on the film, and what I see on film, unless it's a serious case and serious allegations, then I'll look into it. But really, you guys got to trust the film, trust the process. What do these guys show on a consistent basis when you turn the film on? That's what I agree. Micah Parsons is one of those guys that I wanted as a Raider fan. Anthony says, dude's got some stones on him going at Mad Max. That's facts, and you got to love it. You got to love it. I think Max is probably also bringing out the best out of Dylan, too. We don't know the whole story. Maybe there's been lack of a little bit of aggression, and they're wanting to see more of that tenacious side. Dylan's a pretty laid back guy. Maybe Max is firing this offensive lineup. Maybe he's getting their juices going a little bit. Maybe he's trying to create a bigger sense of competition and you know what I'm trying to say? I think Max is bringing that energy, which is something you got to love even more on the Max Crosby aspect, is because this dude is setting a tone for practice. I mean, he's going to take it to you, and he's going to try to get after Derek Carr. Obviously, he's not going to try to get him to the ground or injure him. But you guys know what I'm trying to say. Rep in and rep out. Max is going to give you 110% each and every single snap. He's going to ask these guys to step up. Boogie says makes no sense to trade Josh unless you're not planning on making a playoff run this season. Facts. I agree with that statement 110%, Boogie. And look, everybody in the chat, man, go over and smash the like button. A lot of more Raider fans have pulled up. So everybody that's in the chat, man, go smash that like button. All it does is it lets other Raider fans know where you guys are at, and it makes the show better for you guys, and it helps me out tremendously. So everybody in the chat, man, we should smash that like button. Sean Johnson says, I think Amir Abdullah over Kenyon Drake hands down better. And I'm with you, Sean. This is something me and you've been talking about. Amir Abdullah is the guy. I really do think that. He just offers you, he's that third down back, versatile pass catcher, decent when it comes to pass blocking. He's going to give you 110% effort, can create some juice when it comes to creating plays in the running game. He's just a good football player. He was a good football player for the Minnesota Vikings. I think he's playing his former team this next week on Sunday. Look for Amir Abdullah to have a big preseason game. If he has as big of a game as he had week 1 in that Hall of Fame game, Amir Abdullah is going to start to create a conversation of, hey, we might have to consider trading Kenyon Drake, or he might be a surprise cut candidate. We can still get a compensation draft pick if he goes elsewhere next season. Yeah. So even if you don't trade him, you guys, you can also get a compensation draft pick out of Josh Jacobs. And it depends on the type of contract that he signs. So if he goes out there and say he signs a $10 million deal, I think Zay Jones went out and got a $10 million deal, and you can get like a 5th or 6th round compensation for it. So you're still getting something out of Josh Jacobs. It's just not going to be a 2nd or a 3rd. You will be able to get regardless of where it's depending on the contract that he signs, you're going to get a draft pick assigned to you. Boomcat says, could we get away with keeping Josh Jacobs by tagging him as a franchise player next season? And it's all whatever the Raiders want to do. Could you go that route? Yeah, you could go that route. Do I necessarily see it happening? I don't know. It depends on the kind of year that Josh Jacobs has. Now, what is that number going to be? And are you going to be willing to pay a running back the franchise tag? I don't know. I think you were better off picking up his 5th-year option if that's the route you were going to go. But we'll see, Boomcat. We'll see what happens. Hey, Sean, are you from Chino? I know Sean Johnson. Nah, Anthony, for sure. Anthony says, Ray, what do you think of Bryce Cosby? Flash in the pan, or is he that dude? Look, I liked what I seen on film. Don't get me wrong. I think he flashed a little bit. Obviously, you got to take a note of the competition he's going against. But for the competition and the scheme, he really did a good job. Now I want to see it moving forward. I think a lot of us can buy into one preseason game. And you got to remember, we're going against the depth of the Jags. Now, if he can consistently put that together, you're going to hear me say it a lot, consistency. And you got these guys that are competing for roster spots really have to put a lot on film, not just for one game, but week after week after week. You really have to show what you can bring to the Raiders organization. And if you can be that player consistently, who knows? I mean, he has a really, really hard room to battle. I mean, look, let's just face it. Trayvon Mullen's coming back. You've got Rock Ya-Sin, Anthony Averett, Nate Hobbs, Cravon LeBlanc, Darius Phillips had a really good game. Really good, solid tackler. Meek Robertson's in there competing, which I don't know. We're going to get into Meek Robinson here in a minute as well, about some of these reports today, which we'll just talk about it. But when it comes to Bryce, He's got an uphill battle. I mean, if he makes the roster, to me, you guys, he's a practice squad candidate, and that's okay. Because if something were to happen to the defensive back room, you can always go to the practice squad, grab this guy, plug him in, and you know what you got. So there's no harm, no foul. Do I think he's a 53-man roster guy? No, I don't, because he has a lot of competition in that defensive back room, especially when all those guys get healthy. His best chance of making the 53 were if a lot of those guys couldn't go week one. And I'm going to be honest, you don't necessarily want that heading into week one for Bryce Crosby to be one of those guys getting starting matchups against Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. You guys know what I'm trying to say. Jermaine Illuminor played for Carmen Bracillo in New England. He knows the system, so he should only get better. And yep, that's exactly what we've been saying, Sean, on this channel this entire offseason. Everybody forgot about Jermaine Illuminor. Everybody thought I was just talking out of my butt when I was talking about him this offseason. Coach Bracillo really likes veteran players up front who have played a lot of football. So does Josh McDaniels, and they're able to take guys who have a lot of experience in the National Football League and putting them in a situation to thrive, and really show you and really help this offensive line moving forward. So Jermaine Illuminor is a guy that we have to keep our eyes on. Wow, you guys are blowing up the chat. I absolutely love it. I believe we're deep at guard. Colton Miller stays healthy. Andre James is straight. Parham is solid. Possibly dominant. Right tackle is our only question. Now, Parham is solid. I wouldn't say he's dominant. Maybe in the next few years. Right tackle is a question mark. You do have to bring in a little bit of depth, but I'm still not panicking. Let Alex Leatherwood, and if you had to kick Alex Leatherwood inside to guard, he's in a competition there with Lester Cotton. He's not necessarily guaranteed to win that competition. I think Lester Cotton probably has an edge up right now. Jermaine Illuminor can play right tackle. I think he's a Raider. He replaces Brandon Parker. He is the true swing tackle if week one were to start tomorrow. That's my guy. That is my guy. That is your Raiders swing tackle. Jermaine Illuminor, get used to it. Lester Cotton has also been the star of camp so far. Yeah, I mean, shout out to him. He's put in the work. We were saying it at the top of the show. I see Illuminor being solid swing O lineman for us. He can play tackle and guard. Yep. And you guys, if you guys have been following this channel, know that we've been saying this the entire offseason. Not just recently, not just because Brandon Parker got hurt. We've been consistently saying this the entire offseason. Cosby is very versatile, though. Kid needs PT, and he's going to get a lot of PT coming up here, Anthony. And I'm not saying that he's not versatile. Don't hear me out. But on the back end of that depth chart, guys like Darius Phillips and Amik Robinson, these guys are also versatile when it comes to special teams. Something that Bryce is also going to have to compete in. So it's just the group of competition that he's in specifically, Anthony. It's going to be hard. Am I saying that he can't make it? No. Am I saying that I don't like him? No, I do like what he's doing. Let's see what he can do over the next 3 weeks. Let's see if these guys can kind of shake out a little bit and if somebody can emerge. Sean says, how much do you think Carmen Bracillo can coach up Bamidil Osolene? Another guy I've been really high on. Now, very, very raw when it comes to pass protection. This is a guy who I want to see get more reps in the preseason, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. I want to see a larger body of work for Bam because in the Hall of Fame game late in the fourth quarter, he did really good. I mean, this guy was moving guys 4 to 5 yards off the line of scrimmage, getting up into the second level, pancake blocking people. He's just so big. I mean, he's the longest tackle in the National Football League, and you can't coach that size, even when. So let me break this down for you guys a little bit. Every pass rusher has a plan to get to the quarterback. And in every snap of a play, there are breakdowns. And Bamidil has the size and the athleticism that when he gets his hands on you, it really resets that path that you were taking to the quarterback. And by that time, the quarterback is already getting rid of the football, hopefully, if they're not holding on to it that long. That's what you've seen in the Jacksonville Jaguar game is him getting his hand. Even if the guy got a better jump off the line of scrimmage on him, his length and his athleticism was good enough to get his hands on guys and to really reset that plan of attack to the quarterback. Bam is really raw, but I like it. And especially with Brandon Parker going down, you got to see what you can get out of him. I think Bam plays better in football games than what he practices. That's just what I've heard. Okay. And what I see on film is he does do good when it comes to the game. Still a lot to work on. Coach Bracillo can do it. He's just really, really raw. And that's okay because you can always cook something that's raw. Hear me out on that. You can always cook something that's raw. And Bamadil is raw. So if he needs more cooking, you can work with Bam a lot more. What you can't do is reverse sear. You can't reverse cook something. So when a guy is aging, he's past his prime, he's dealing with injuries, you can't fix a lot of that. But Bam, he hasn't played a lot of football, very raw at his position. Cook him up a little bit. I want Coach Priscillo to cook him up a little bit. Okay. Can't crown a UDFA after just one preseason game against the Jags third stringers. I agree 100%, Boogie. But it doesn't mean that you can't take an eye and really watch these guys moving forward. Tito says, I heard a lot of Chicago Bears went out. Do they have a good defensive lineman or offensive lineman we could trade for? Taven Jenkins is on the open market. He wants out. A young guy was drafted last year, a guy I was really high on. So Tevin Jenkins wants out, would really fit well with the Raiders' need and scheme fit. That is something to look forward to, maybe. I don't know if it necessarily goes through, but that's a guy. Defensive line, Robert Quinn is a guy that wants out. He's not a nose tackle by any means, but he is an edge rusher. I would like the services of Robert Quinn. Get him on the field. If he balls out against the Vikings, watch out. I agree 100%. And look, 30 of you guys in the chat, go smash that like button, man. Continue to support and communicate. I love the chat, man. The chat is just wild tonight. You guys are just holding it down, man. You're making the show good. I had so many points to get into, and we're just – this is turning into a Q&A, and we'll get to the points here in a little bit, but I'm enjoying talking to you guys. So everybody go smash that like button, man. Show Raider Rafe some love for holding it down tonight. Van City says, I love that Hobbs is taking snaps at outside cornerback. That could make our quarterback room dynamic. Slide Avery into the middle and have Yasin. Thank you for being my transition, Van. Literally, my next topic of conversation after addressing these questions was going to be Nate Hobbs, but you've given me a cue, and I'm going to go right into it. So Nate Hobbs, again, another player we've been talking about that don't be surprised when he plays a lot of outside in this scheme. He's long. He's just a football player. Patrick Graham loves these guys that he can put guys on the best wide receiver and say, go out there and cover him. Nate Hobbs is that guy. Now, if the best wide receiver was lined up in the nickel, okay, go line him up in the nickel. That his rookie year was great, you guys. But just because he was an all-pro at the nickel, his rookie season doesn't mean he can't be an all-pro on the outside, because I think he has those traits. When you're talking about wanting to put your best cover corners out on the field, if it's Trayvon Mullen and it's Nate Hobbs on the outside, they're your long press man cover corners, then so be it. If you have to kick Anthony Avery, a guy with 4.3 speed on the inside, and to be your nickel CB, he can do it. He's played a lot of football and he's played that position before, which is why I'm not buying into the whole hype about Amik Robertson. Look, Darius Phillips and Amik Robertson are getting reps with the first team because that's who's available right now. Rock Yassin, Mullen, Avery, Cravon LeBlanc, all those guys are injured right now. So yes, Amik Robertson has to get snaps on the inside. Darius Phillips has to get snaps on the inside. In no way, shape, or form. And look, I like Amik Robinson a lot, and I know a lot of Raider Nation likes him. It's a little bit hit and miss with him. Look, I'm not putting Amik Robinson in the game over a guy like Anthony Avery. I'm not putting him in a game over a guy like Cravon LeBlanc. I'm just not. And if you watch film, you'd understand. Now, I understand he was out of position a lot of the times in the former schemes. If Amik goes out there and earns it, so be it. Okay, I'll eat crow. I'll come on here and say Amik Robinson proved me wrong. Right now, those guys need reps. Amik Robertson needs to show that he's going to make this roster. Let's just keep it a buck. He didn't get any reps in that first preseason game. The competition in this cornerback room is heating up daily. These guys are consistently putting out new tape. Amik Robertson has to go out there and compete. So, yeah, I want Nate Hobbs to compete on the outside because I think he's going to really emerge in a role, and really, I think he's going to get the respect this season that Nate Hobbs deserves. He's put in a ton of work, a fantastic player, getting praises from players like Hunter Renfrow and Devontae Adams. Look, you got to love it. Max Crosby. Nate Hobbs is going to emerge as one of the true cover corners in the National Football League. I truly believe that. So, yeah, put him on the outside, put him on the inside. That's the good thing about Nate Hobbs. You can put him anywhere in that defensive backfield, and he's going to thrive. So, whether he's the nickel DB in the nickel package, fine, kick him inside. Whether he's your outside corner and your base 3-4, okay. I'm okay with it. I love Nate Hobbs. Plus, having Mullen back and rotating in Robinson, I'm a little less stressed about our CB room right now. Trayvon Mullen is going to be big. Look, he needs to stay healthy, but I think we always forget how good Trayvon Mullen actually is. I mean, Is he perfect? No. But Trayvon Mullen is a long man coverage corner who was kind of playing out of his skill set and schemes in the previous year or so. You get him in the system where he's at the line of scrimmage pressing these guys, a place where he was really thrived in the past. Trayvon Mullen is a guy you want on this roster. Make no mistake about it. You want Trayvon Mullen on the opposite side of Nate Hobbs because that is a really good CB duo. And then you're talking about guys like Rock Ya-Sin, Anthony Averett. You have a good amount of depth. I mean, they have a sneaky, underrated cornerback room. Raider Nation, I don't think you need to panic. As long as these guys stay healthy, and I know that they've been a little bit banged up here recently, if these guys are healthy and good to go come week one, you should feel pretty encouraged about what the Raiders have going on in that defensive back room, especially if they can address situations up front. If you can create a defensive line, maybe go get an Ndamukong Suh. If you can go make that move with guys like Chandler Jones and Max Crosby and Malcolm Koonce and the linebacker room that you have, I'm okay with the DB room. I think they're really going to surprise you guys. I really, really do, especially with this scheme, the formations that Patrick Graham likes to run. He's really creative. Yeah, I say that you guys should hold off and watch what the Raiders have going on in that defensive back room. You're going to like what you see. 100% Bookie. Apparently, Amika's having a good camp too. Dirty Low says, salute Raider Ray in the chat. Shout out to you, Dirty Low. If you guys aren't, go over there and subscribe to my man's channel. Another Raiders content creator, man. Shout out to you. I appreciate you pulling up, brother. Van City says, plus, if Mullen is only 90% healthy week one, I have full confidence that those four can hold down the CB 100%. Without a shadow of a doubt. He can hold it down. And look, all 30 of you guys, go smash the like button. If you aren't yet, subscribe to the channel. Maybe this is your guys' first time finding me tonight. Look, we're producing Raiders content weekly, doing live shows weekly. So shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Your guys' love is felt, and I appreciate each and every single one of you. Smash that like button. Anthony says, I like that. Throw Bam back in the oven. 100%, man. I'm sure that's a take you guys haven't heard in a while. He's still raw, man. Let him cook. Let him cook a little bit. Cook him up. We need depth at defensive tackle and O-line and on T6. Yeah, we've been talking about that, brother. For sure. That's what we do need. G.A. Patriot said, what's up, Ray? Haven't caught you live in a bit. Well, what better way than to catch me tonight, brother? I hope that you're doing good. I hope your family's well. It's good to see you in the chat tonight. I always love seeing you. You always bring some really good questions and some really good points, and we're having a fantastic show tonight. If you guys are having a good time tonight, and this is a good live show, and you guys are enjoying yourself, man, let me know down in the comments section below. It's such an encouragement to hear, and I think tonight we're having a fantastic show, and there's still a ton to talk about, ton of comments to address, so we're only getting started. Snoop says, shout out to Dirty Low. Dirty Low, everybody go subscribe to him. Raphael says, yep, I agree with Auntie 6. The Raiders need to sign Alvaro Martinez, defensive tackle from Miami, 6'2", 305, and pass rush, but more of a run stopper. And that's a name to keep an eye out. And I think Auntie 6, like you're onto something, what we've kind of been talking about, right? You don't have to go out there and get these huge names guys to come in and contribute. You can go out in there and get you a really good nose tech and to hold down and to really fight those double teams, because that's what you need in this base 3-4. You need a big feisty nose tackle that can go in there and fight double teams, a good run stopper, maybe a guy like, who did we have written down? Sheldon Richardson, a guy who's proven to be a run defender, a Linval Joseph, or maybe one of these guys that get released from their teams here in the next coming weeks. I've never been here first time. You have a great knowledge. Glad I saw you were live. Well, I appreciate that, Tito. If you aren't yet, subscribe to the channel, man. I'd love to have you around and look forward to addressing your comments in the future in the chat, bro. Graham always loves guys he can move all over the field. The offense never gets comfortable without 100%, and that's what they're creating, which is why I'm really impressed with these young guys being asked to move all over the offensive line. When you do that, and a coach does tend to do that, you can tell that they've really simplified the scheme up front. Now, Tom Cable was asking guys to play specifically outside of Brandon Parker and Denzel Good. Those guys were really, in Jermaine Illuminor, those guys were asked to swing, but they've been known to do that their entire career. What you're seeing with Coach Brasillo is a simplified scheme, which is how these guys are able to learn a multitude of positions, and says a lot about their football IQ. O-line, I want to see this Sunday against Minnesota. Left tackle, Bam Osalene, love it. Left guard, John Simpson. Center, Dylan Parham. Right guard, Mumford, interesting. Right tackle, Leatherwood. I can't say I disagree, Sean. I like that lineup. I want to see more from Bamadill. I think he's a guy that can contribute. Now, I'm not going to say he's going to make the 53-man roster, but with Brandon Parker going down, you have to see what you have in Bam, and with all the physical traits that he has and the game that The film that he put out week 1 in preseason against the Jaguars, you have to give him more reps moving forward. You have to. So, yeah, I'd like to see him get involved in the second quarter. Let him get a whole game in. I mean, obviously that's not realistic. They're going to switch those guys out, but as many reps as possible that Bam can get, that's what I want to see Bam do. I think that Abrams and Farrell should be traded. I do have high hopes for Abrams, not so much with Farrell. And Dirty, you make a good point. Farrell ain't even practicing. I mean, this is practice, I want to say 5. And let's put it this way. Cleveland Farrell isn't in a position to go out there and miss 5 practices. I'm really intrigued to see when this Patriot practice comes. If the Patriots they need help on that defensive line, I'm really curious to see if Cleveland Farrell would be a place where he could get traded to the Patriots, get what you can out of him. Maybe a player for player swap. I don't necessarily know what that would be yet, or get a draft pick, whatever you can get for Cleve Farrell. You guys, I'm not too high on Clee. I'm curious, you know what I'm saying? And maybe if he can come in and do a good preseason. Obviously, we need depth at the defensive end position, so he does have that going for him. But I'm curious to see on the front of Cleveland Farrell of what happens moving forward. As far as Jonathan Abram, he's a liability in coverage. And let's face it, if we're going to run 2 high safeties this year, I don't want that guy playing the post. I don't want him playing deep. I want him at the line of scrimmage. I want him to get creative in the blitz packages and get him after the quarterback, sniffing out screen plays, getting behind the line of scrimmage a lot more. That's where I want to see Jonathan Abram. I do not want to see Jonathan Abram cover. And I don't think that the coaching staff wants to either. I think he's getting a lot of reps being forced to learn to cover. But moving forward, no, I don't want to see Jonathan Abram out there covering. I'd rather see Duron Harmon, a proven veteran, a guy who gets his hands on the football, creates big turnovers and big time moments of football games. Duron Harmon is my guy. Auntie Six says, happy birthday to Rafucho. Everybody go say happy birthday to Ralph, man. Shout out to him. OGs are pulling up without a shadow of doubt, man. Everybody's pulling up. I love it. I love seeing it. I love seeing Auntie. I love seeing Dirty Low. I love seeing all these content creators. Spotlight Sports Talk is pulling up, bro. Everybody, this is the place to be. I might even open up the chat, man. I want to talk to some of you guys. Auntie says, what up, G? Anthony says, that's cool that Devontae went at Ocho Cinco a little bit and supported Hobbs instead of hanging him out to dry. And shot. Ocho Cinco is a fool for doing that, bro. I mean, these guys are giving you footage because they trust you and they're just trying to get an honest critique about their game. And you go out and you put that out on social media, you got to think of how Nate Hobbs might have felt. He might have been like, low-key, Devontae, like, bro, why are you sending that tape out there to a guy like Ocho Cinco to put it out there on the world? But now I know Nate Hobbs is cool, and I'm sure he don't mind it at all. I'm sure they're completely fine about it. And Nate Hobbs ain't that worried because 99% of the corners in the NFL, I don't even care if you're Jalen Ramsey. When you're going one-on-ones on Devontae Adams, you're going to lose 9 out of 10 times. He's just too good off of his release. DT and O-line. That's that third guy Devontae Adams has gone to bat for. Gotta love it. Spotlight Sports Talk says, Raider Ray, what's good? What's going on, brother? How you doing? Man, all the OGs are pulling up tonight. So, look, I might open up the chat. I've gone an hour in, and we've addressed it. So, we're going to give Raider Nation a show. If anybody is willing to come on, Dirty Low, Auntie, Spotlight, if you guys are wanting to come on, let me know down in the comment section below. Tito does say, he makes an interesting point here. I'm not liking our special teams coach. Hopefully it's not a weak link. And with a solid kicker like Daniel Carlson, AJ Cole, as long as they're good when it comes to protections and designing plays, I'm not going to be too upset about it. But I do get where you're coming from. I was speculative when we made the hire this offseason because there wasn't a lot of good reviews about it. But we'll see, right? We got some other positions on this roster to look forward to. I think Daniel Carlson has ice in his veins a little bit, and I think we're in good hands, man, between him and AJ Cole. Out of all the coaches we brought in, I think all questioned McMahon hiring for special team. Yeah, and we all questioned it, man. We all questioned it. Tito says, great show this afternoon. Spotlight had a show this afternoon. And you guys, if you aren't subscribed to Spotlight Sports Talk, go over there and subscribe to my man. I support every Raider content creator, past, present, future. I just show love, bro, and I'm here to talk about the Raiders. It ain't about me. It's about the Shield. It's about Raider Nation. It's about the chat. So you ain't ever gonna see anything else out of me, bro. I'm out here to talk all things Raiders, and everybody has a voice on my show. I'd rather have a handful of decent, proven, experienced guys than a single big name for the interior line. Facts, GA Patriot. Another thing that we've been talking about. GA also says, I thought Cotton looked promising, even downfield on screenplays. He got out in space and he got his hands on people. I thought it was really good. Let's see here. Man, the chat is blowing up, Raider Nation. I absolutely love it. I appreciate Anthony. Much respect to you, brother. Cleve Farrell to me is Brian Edwards' situation. Never properly got the right chance. Go on a fresh start. Well, here's the thing. Cleve Farrell did get his opportunity. He just never lived up to it. That's a fact. I mean, Cleve just didn't live up to that 4th overall draft pick, and those are hard shoes to fill. I just don't think Cleve Farrell's a good fit right now. I think giving him a new home is the best case scenario. Spotlight says, I got to get you on the show, Raider Ray. Love your knowledge, and I shout you out as well on my community post. Hey, I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate that a lot. We will work it out. I'm a business owner, brother, so I do this because I love the Raiders, and I come on when I can and do live shows when I can, but I'm constantly grinding at this. So when I do get some free time, brother, I will keep in touch with me on IG. I'm doing better of trying to keep up with everybody. Stay up to 2 with me on IG and we'll work something out, brother. Whether it's on your show or my show, we'll get it popping. Anthony, we have opinions to agree and disagree. It's nothing personal. Exactly. Without a shadow of a doubt. Anthony says, pay Denzel Perryman, Scary Perry. I didn't know about Ray until OG show. And yeah, look, OG put me on, y'all. OG put me on and gave me my first opportunity live. And that was back when, man, I was making videos in my car. I was making videos in a room, like just with a camera in front of my face, just because I love the Raiders and I thought I had a voice and an opinion. And we built a lot, right? We built a lot of momentum doing that. But now, man, look, we're growing. We're growing Raider Nation, and we're giving you quality Raiders content, and we're really getting the people involved. So everybody in the chat, man, smash the like button. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, man, we're looking – my goal is to have 1,000 subscribers by week 1. Now that's a huge feat. I got a long way to go, right? I think I'm at like 640, something like that. We got a long way to go, but there's a lot of content to be created, a lot of live shows to do, a lot of interacting with other Raider content creators down the pipeline. So I think it's achievable. I'm always going to put my bar high because that's what I expect, man. I got a dream and I got a goal in this game. So if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, man. Dirty says, oh no, Chet Hollywood, Richard Lyon is in the building. Salute, bro. Clee got outshined by Crosby year 1 and never recovered, and that's true. And he really took over. Max Crosby took over this football team and really emerged as a Raider. Van City says, my guy Ray knows his stuff. I find him and Andy have the deepest knowledge when it comes to the actual game of football. Andy's one of those guys I would love to link up with. I know he has a bigger channel, so I'm sure he looks at my stuff and I'm sure he's probably like, I don't want to really give that guy an opportunity. But really, if he would ever want to just come on here and us just talk football, I would really love that because I think it would be good for the Raider Nation. I know a lot of people want me to do a weekly show with Pharaoh. Me and Pharaoh have a lot of good insight takes as well together. I appreciate that kind comment, Van. I really do. It means a lot. I'm just someone who loves this football team. I love football. I love X's and O's. And I would love to talk to Andy. If that's something you guys would like to see, whether it's on my channel or his, please go over to his Instagram, go over to his YouTube channel, and just let him know that you would like to see him talk with Raider Ray. And maybe we can set something up with the nation. And it's all love over here. I would love to sit down and talk with Andy. I see the game pretty similar to him. We might disagree on a few things, but that's what good dialogue creates. That's what makes good Raiders content. And really to look at this team from a multiple, I call it a paradigm, right? Where we all can look at one Raiders football team and come away with different takes and see the game a bit differently. And I think all it does is sharpen Raider Nation. Spotlight says, you got this. I appreciate you, bro. I appreciate you, Spotlight. Facts, Van City. I'd love to watch Andy and Ray break down tape together. If that's what you guys would like to do, man, you guys got to go over. I only have so much of a voice right now. I need Raider Nation to go over there and show him love, right? I need you to and let him know that it's all love from me too. I love Andy. We've talked a little bit on IG, nothing crazy, but I would love to look up and link up with him and do some really, really good content moving forward. Mateus Farley, you believe he makes a 53? I think so. If you're talking about depth at that safety position, there's a real topic of conversation. Someone who really did emerge on that Hall of Fame game that I really wanted to see, and it was Tyree Gillespie, because there's been no word on the front of Tyree Gillespie, right? And he had a really good preseason. He had a really good game. So it was good to see Tyree Gillespie. But look, Jonathan Abram, Trayvon Merrick, Deron Harmon. Outside of that, you got like guys like Roderick Teamer, Isaiah Palomao, Farley. You got those guys competing for that spot. And look, anything's possible. Those guys could really go out there and compete and get a shot at earning a spot on the 53-man roster. That last safety spot is going to be intriguing. And I'm curious to see how many they carry. Let's see here. Boogie says, get that boy Ray to 1,000 scrubs. Let him be let him monetize his content. Now we're speaking facts a little bit. Now the Raider Nation showing that faithful love that I like to see, man. Everybody in the chat, man, go smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, man. We're gonna consistently bring you guys top quality live shows and where your voice is heard, and we will interact with each and every single comment. I'm getting to everybody in the chat, man. I love it. I love the support. We got 40 people in here, man. If you're not subscribed, man, I want to see you around here and I want to talk to you. You and Andy would be a fire live. Well, let's set it up. Raider Nation, your voice is heard. So you guys need to go over there. You need to let Andy know that you guys would like to hear him. Let us link up and let's talk. Let's talk Raiders football. Tito says, I'd like to see Andy and Ray do a breakdown on a preseason game. Let's do it. Andy's smart. Andy is smart. I like his breakdowns, and I'd like to sit down and watch some film with him. Van, facts, bro. Raider Nation is a family, 100%, and I love it. This is a family that we've created over here, and I wouldn't want it any other way. Kid could be a great manager. Like I said, when it comes to X's and O, Ray and Andy are the GOATs. I appreciate that, bro. That's a lot of high praise, and I appreciate that. Oh, man. Speaking of my boy Andy, look who's in the building, Raider Nation. What's going on, Andy? Hey, look, if you haven't read yet, everybody wants us to link up and talk sometime. So whether it be on your show, my show, I appreciate your work. And look, I'm just here to talk about Raiders football, man. That's what I love. I appreciate your X's and O's and your viewpoints on it. So maybe we can talk. Obviously, Raider Nation wants it. They've been blowing me up about it. So Andy, if it's something that you'd be interested, whether it's on, look, I get it. I got 600 and some subscribers. I'm new to the game. I understand if you don't want me on your show, you can always come here, bro. You could always come here. It ain't nothing about that. It ain't about subs and likes. It's about getting good Raiders quality content out to Raider Nation and talking about this football team, man, talking about the silver and black and talking about how we can make this team the best possible moving forward. GA says, what's good, Andy? Andy says, glad I caught the show. I'm glad that you're here and able to pull up and taking time out of your day, brother. Boogie says, Andy and Ray content coming soon. Hey, we'll see. That man's busy and he's doing his own thing. If he's willing to do it, you guys already know I'm more than willing to link up and just talk Raiders. I think it would be really good. Docs, Andy, and Hammer, and Wasted, and Ray would be the Fantastic Five. Hey, if they wanted to just sit down and talk Raiders, man, I ain't trying to intrude on anything that what they got going on, man. If you're talking about the Fantastic Five, we got a while before that could happen. I just would like to sit down and talk Raiders football with them. But we'll see, man. I'm always open to getting on and talking to those boys. I love what they do. I try to interact with the chat as much as I can, but I'm also pretty busy as well. But hey, we'll see what goes on in the future, y'all. GA Patriot says, Andy, read back up the chat, a dozen messages or so. Yeah, and I'd say that's about accurate, man. We got about a dozen people asking if me and Andy can work up. Our secondary is going to be better than what I feel most think. And that's what I was just kind of getting into, right? With Nate Hobbs and Trayvon Mullen, two guys who I think on the outside could actually be pretty special. You're talking about a pretty special duo. Then you have depth like a Rock Ya-Sin, Anthony Avery. I think we're a lot more deep and competitive at the defensive back room than what a lot of people want to give us credit for, especially if we can stay healthy. You got a lot of cover corners in this back room. And if the pressure up front, Max Crosby, Chandler Jones, and if you can maybe go out there and get somebody who can offer a little bit when it comes to pass rush. I know we got Bilal Nichols, but if you can maybe get another name in there, maybe a bigger nose tackle that can offer some pass rush and really be able to fight off those double teams, what we were talking about earlier in these 3-4 schemes, you need a big nose tackle to get after guys. That's what I'd be interested in seeing. Van says, oh, speak of the devil, and he appears. Exactly. Ray, get Andy that link and bring him on live. Look, if he wants to get on, bro, I'm on. I'm game. Oh, we got SC experience, man. Man, we got everybody pulling up. I'll pop in right now and show love. All right, y'all. Look, we're gonna get Andy in on right now. So, Raider Nation, look at y'all. Look at the power of Raider Nation. You guys talk about it. You guys wanted it, and within 10 minutes, we're able to make it happen on this channel, man. Go over there. Shout out. First and foremost, go subscribe to Andy. I'm sure every one of you guys are subscribed to Andy. So, but look, go over and subscribe to Andy, man, and everybody subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna drop the link, and my boy's gonna come on here real quick, and we're gonna give Raider Nation a show. I'm really excited, man. I'm glad I was able to come on live tonight, man, and just chat it up with you guys. Tonight has been a special night. All right, the link's dropped in the chat, brother. So when you're ready, just come on. All right, here we go. SC Experience, everybody go shout out to SC, man, for pulling up into the chat, man. Go subscribe to his channel. I love what SC does too. I got to talk to him early on in my content creating days. Ray, Andy's going to come on the show and show some love. Give him the link. Absolutely, brother. We're waiting on it now. We're going to bring you guys some good content and talk all things Raiders football. Raiders Allegiant pulled up. What's good? Everybody go over to Raiders Allegiance and subscribe to my man. Thank you for pulling up, brother. Sean Johnson says, Ray, you deserve to blow up. You are knowledgeable. I appreciate the kind words, you guys. It's just all work. I'm just putting in work. I got to earn my stripes just like everybody else. Docs, Andy Wasted, everybody, bro. Sanji, everybody had to earn their stripes, bro. So I'm just out here putting in the work. And tonight is just evident that my goals and my dreams are coming, getting to hook up with some of my favorite content creators. So now I'm one of them. So Raider Nation, we're going to be talking all things. Andy is on his way. So we're going to be bringing you guys a good show. Here it is from the man himself. But we got a lot to talk about. I want to kind of hold off my topics now that Andy's coming on. I don't want to get too far into what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to be patient. Andy probably combing his hair. That boy's trying to look good. He's trying to come up on my show and flex. That boy is trying to flex. Boy, you already got 1.5 million subs. You ain't got to be all pretty. All right, without further ado, brother, you guys wanted it. The man that's combing his beard, combing his hair, getting ready for the show. It's Andy with Raiders Football Talk. What's going on, Andy? How you doing, brother?
Yo, how you doing, man?
Dude, I'm doing good. It's been a long time coming. It's crazy that oh, Van City. It's crazy that we were able to get you on this quick, bro. Everybody was just blowing up. They've been asking me for a few weeks now. I know on IG we've just kind of been showing each other some love here and there,
Yeah, most definitely.
but appreciate what you do, and I appreciate you for coming on, man. But
Nah, I
excited to just
appreciate
talk
you
some
for
Raider
having me
football.
on, bro. Appreciate you for having me on, man. You always show love. It's just giving back, man. Giving back. Glad you send that link. I'm always down to talk some football, man. That's what I
Hey,
like to
me
do the
too, bro.
most.
That's all this is about, bro. It's about the silver and black for me. It's about talking football with people who know what they're talking about. So
Most
that's why I'm
definitely.
glad to have you on. So I see all the content that you're dropping, bro. Let me know about some guys that you're excited for this preseason. Maybe some guys that are standing out.
Yeah.
Let me know what your feeling is right now.
Well, first, I think the biggest standout in my opinion, there was two. There was really three guys on defense the last game. The first quarter or first half, they gave Darius Phillips a lot of looks, and I think that Darius Phillips looked pretty good outside of one play where he jumped the route and kind of missed the pick. But jumping the route, that's the hardest part in my opinion. Putting yourself in that spot to make that play. Now he's just got to actually execute it next time. I thought that Darius Phillips did a phenomenal job in the first half. And then the last two, Malcolm Kuntz really started to heat up when Patrick Graham starts to call different types of stunts with him and Kendall Vickers. And then, the video I just dropped this morning, Bryce Cosby really, really, really jumped out, man.
Mm,
I think the defense had a phenomenal game.
I do too. I do too. And I couldn't believe some people were coming out and talking about Malcolm Kuntz didn't have a very good game. I don't know what they were watching.
Yeah.
I've probably gone back and I've watched the game 4 or 5 times now. Malcolm Kuntz really stood out. Darius Phil, and correct me if I'm wrong, and let me know if you've seen the same thing. But when it came both offensively and defensively, and now it wasn't a perfect game, especially when it got towards the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
But doesn't this Raider team just feel like it's more prepared? Like, I mean, just discipline, understanding assignments when it comes to tackling, just being efficient tacklers. Darius Phillips really got his head in there and had a
Mm-hmm.
lot of real good showing. A guy like what you were just talking about, Cosby, and these depth guys are really emerging. And what's going to be interesting with this Raiders roster is, look, these 53-man roster spots are going to be really hard to come by. Like, you're going to have to earn your spot on this
No
Raiders football team.
facts.
You know what I mean? Like, whether it okay, so like whether it's that depth at safety, Deron Harmon, Abram, Merrick, those are the guys you could probably say are a lock.
Hmm.
But outside of that, you got an open competition, really.
No, yeah, it's a fact.
So, I mean, how do you view, like, I know all this talk about Amik Robertson is getting reps with the first team, and I addressed it at the top of the hour that, look, Rock Ya-Sin, Anthony Averett, Cravon LeBlanc, all those guys are hurt right now. And Amik
Hmm.
Robertson didn't get reps in that first preseason game. So obviously he's going to be the guy that's going to be getting nickel reps.
Hmm.
Um, do you, this is my opinion, Andy. Amik is on this uphill battle because that defensive back room has a lot of depth. Guys like
Hmm.
Darius Phillips, you go down the line of the depth and the guys that have really emerged. Amik Robertson is going to have a pretty tough time making the roster. Now, I do think that he can, and I think he could be one of those depth pieces. But what do you think about Amik Robertson right now?
I think that for him, it's kind of the opposite on what Nate Hobbs is doing, right? Like last year, we knew that Nate Hobbs, primarily coming out of college, he was an outside corner, right? And he came in and he kind of understood the fact that, okay, in the league, maybe the outside in my first year is probably going to be a lot harder going up against Keenan Allen, Tyreek Hill, Mike Williams, right? So we had Gus Bradley say, you know what, we got a vacant spot on the inside, right? And he learned the ins and outs. Like you looked at Hobbs and he was able to come downhill like a linebacker, make sure tackles in the alley. And then my thing is with Amik, it was kind of like, okay, well, we know he was decent on the outside in college, and he was forced on the inside due to his height. And that didn't really work. His first game, it looked bad, right? He got beat for like a 30, 40-yard touchdown on the first play of his career coming out of the slot. Then the next year, well, he looked actually pretty good in the first two games on the outside. But then there's just things that he can't control. He can't control the fact he's 5'9". Then Mike Williams got after, or no, he got after Mike Williams. But then guys like Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, Allen Robinson, they all got after him against his physicality, not against his technique. Because if you look at all those catches, Amik Robertson had good coverage.
Hmm.
It was just
Size.
being bigger than the guy in front of you, and that's really what it was. And I think that with Amik, we know what he can offer on the outside, and we know that at times he can really display some great technique on the outside. But I think that if he wants to really have a shot to make this roster, it's finding a career on the inside. And that's just because on the inside, naturally, there's guys like Hunter Renfro that aren't over 6 foot, like Will Fuller that isn't over 6 foot. A lot of these slot receivers are not over 6 foot. So if you look at it and he's able to get comfortable on the inside, he can really get a shot at making a roster.
Hmm.
But as of right now, with the whole thing of him taking a lot of first team reps, it's just because Rocky Sin's not out there, Trayvon Mullen's not out there. But from what we have heard, though, he has looked very good on the outside, which is not surprising. It's not surprising, in my opinion. We know that he's pretty decent on the outside. He just can't control the fact he's 5'9". That's really what it
Mhm.
is.
And I think that's the only thing that's hurting him really specifically in this defensive back room. Because if you look
Mhm.
at the size of the guys in our room,
Yeah.
long, lanky press man corners,
Yeah.
you know, and and then the whole topic of Nate Hobbs, and I think that whole first year of him getting kicked down in the nickel and having an All Pro season at that nickel position, all that does is benefit him more when he's asked to work the outside now.
Exactly.
Because now, look, let's just put it this way: Nate Hobbs is a dog. Like,
Hmm.
Nate Hobbs is a true cover corner man, zone coverage. You kick him inside, it don't matter. Nate Hobbs is turning into one of those defensive backs that you go shadow the best receiver on the opposing offenses, and I think that he
Hmm.
could do that. Um, so I expect this year he's going to get a lot more burn on the outside, just because, look, if you're playing those base 3-4s, now we're not going to be playing that all the time, but when you're playing those base packages,
Yeah.
yeah, I think Hobbs is going to be kicked to the outside, especially if
Hmm.
he's your better cover corner. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just what's going to happen. So I know a lot of people were freaking out, like, oh, you're moving Nate Hobbs out of the nickel. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I think Nate
Yeah.
Hobbs can do a lot of good things. So
Yeah.
yeah, dude. Even what do you think about the offensive line? We don't have to cover all the typical conversation that gets put out there, but maybe guys like Bamadil, Osalene, now moving forward, would you like to see him get reps in the third quarter, the fourth quarter, just to put a bigger body of work out there?
Well,
Um,
yeah, I think with Parker going down, I mean, I know it's not 100% confirmed, but let's just be real, man. Scout knows the man personally, so I'm not gonna go into what Scout was saying, but
mm,
Parker's done.
okay.
Parker's done. But
Yeah.
my thing with Bam Olaseni, I really witnessed three things, right? So when the pads first came on and we were looking at the padded practices, his stance looked really, really, really poor. Like
I
it
agree.
looked just uncomfortable. It did not look natural. And I understand he's not been playing football for a long time. I get that. But then you take it over to the preseason and okay, the run blocking looks pretty good, but then
Hmm.
when you look at the time to get into a pass pro, I can see a lot of guys in this league just running right around him.
Yep.
Like he is very, very slow with his kick slide. It does not look good. Now, hey, if his job can be making the 53-man roster or making the practice squad and gets elevated on games that we feel like we're going to have to run the ball 70% of the time, like they had to against Buffalo last year, and we can use him as a sixth offensive lineman, as a blocking tight end, so be it. There's a lot of
Right.
guys that make money in this league doing that.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that Bam Olaseni isn't or is that guy, but I think that that's his bigger option. Now, to answer your question, I do want to see him in the third quarter. I don't really think it was. I mean, it's not that it's not fair, but we kind of knew in the fourth quarter the game was over. Doug Peterson's pride is already shot. He's not going to try and run a bunch of different plays that is really going to test Bam Olaseni. He's not going to run the stunts that he was running on Brendan Parker and John Simpson. He's just going to, all right, if my guy beats your guy, it is what it is. But I think that Bam Olaseni, with him not playing football for so long, I think he needs to see those stunts. And I think in the preseason, that's what it's all about. So I think if he gets in the third quarter, or maybe the game is still a little bit closer and it's not as out of hand, but I would love to see Bam Olaseni more. I mean, how can you not be intrigued by a freaking 6'8", 360-pound lineman, right? Like,
Right. And
it,
he's the longest tackle in the National Football League.
yeah.
So what I was seeing in the pass protection too is you were right, is I see a lot of these finesse guys, especially these guys with
Hmm.
really quick get offs, these Joe Abosas, the TJ Watts of the world, absolutely dominating Bam. Where he made up was with that length. Is I was addressing it earlier. Is there's always every pass rusher has a path and a plan to get to the quarterback, and what Bam has in his benefit is what you can't coach, and it's his natural God given traits.
Yep.
And so when he was able to get his hands on guys, they was able to reroute that path a little bit, and thankfully. The quarterback was able to get rid of the football, but however, yeah, he's going to struggle with those quick, twitchy pass rushers. But he is an extremely powerful guy. I do expect him to make the practice squad for sure, and really develop his game. I think over a year or two, I think that's where you're going to really see the growth of him. What did you think overall of Dylan Parham?
Oh man, I was actually really, really I was really pleased with Dylan Parham, man. I
Mm,
thought that me, I wasn't the biggest fan of putting him at center when we first drafted him. I kind of saw like, all right, we got Denzel good. Jermaine Illuminor is gonna fight for a job too. Andre James did okay at the end of the season. I want him to take over at left guard. But
mm,
playing, center in high school a little bit, I was actually really, really surprised at how well he commanded the offense when he was playing center. Now, I will say one thing: he looked good at center, but he looked better at guard, and specifically in the screen game. In the screen game, I felt like when he was at guard, man, he was able to get out and get to the linebacker extremely quick. But I felt like at center, since it's something that it's not really natural to him up until the Senior Bowl. The first time playing a game in the NFL is kind of hard, and then when you tell him to play another position that he hasn't played before, it's another thing. But I thought he played very well, in my opinion. If I'm just looking at who had the best performance on the offensive line, I'd say it was him and Lester Cotton. I thought that those two guys really played very, very well. I think that we all know that Simpson and Parker probably had the worst games, but um, I really like Parham. That was one of my favorite pickups. We were talking about him before we even took him in the draft months before. So it was nice seeing him go out there and play at a high level.
No, and look, I agree. I've been iffy, and I'm not gonna like take back of what I said. I think Dylan Parham. Look, the Raiders have been forced to start a lot of these young guys in the past,
Of course.
and I think that you have an opportunity to really develop him. And do I think he can go out there and beat John Simpson? I think that he could definitely compete for that. I think he's definitely your backup center, and he's definitely competing
Hmm.
for one of those guard spots.
Hmm.
Um, but when it comes to a guy that really jumped off on tape for me, I don't know about when you watched the film. Jermaine Illuminor did fantastic. I thought. I
Hmm.
thought both at left tackle, right
And
tackle.
right tackle. Yep.
Uh, he played phenomenal, and I think he is your true swing tackle. If I'm being honest,
Hmm.
he's just one of those gadget players, and I've been talking about him all off season over here. Is this guy's played with Coach Brasillo and Josh McDaniels before? He's played both inside, outside, and his pass protection looked actually pretty good for what it was
Yeah.
in that Hall of Fame game, and to do it consistently on the left and right side. This is exactly what we were looking for Brandon Parker, but we
Hmm.
haven't in Jermaine Illuminor. So with the loss of Brandon Parker, I think it really opens up a door for a guy like Jermaine Illuminor to be that guy.
I 100% agree. Um, I think Illuminor with the snaps that he played on the left side, um, I think what helped him was because right side is naturally where he's played a lot in the NFL, and the left side he looked good. But what I will say is that on the left side there was a little bit of times where again his kick slide it didn't look slow, but it did look slightly unnatural. Now of course that's going to happen. You go into that game thinking that Parker's going to play the whole game on the left side, and then you just get shot over there, and he does a great job. I thought one of his better plays was on a toss to the left with Zamir White on 3rd and 1, and he really
Right.
dashed out there and he got to the sideline and he put his hands on the DB just before the DB can make a play on Zamir White. And I think that was a phenomenal play. But to your point, I think that him, out of everybody on the roster, I think that I actually would like to see him compete with Leatherwood
Mm.
for that starting right
Oh,
tackle spot
yep.
because in my opinion, I've always preached this, and I think that competition is the best thing that you can have in anything, whether it's life, sports, your job. Competition is what you need. Like you need to understand that even if you're having a best day, you need to do better because someone is right behind you trying to take your spot. And I think with Leatherwood right now, having Brandon Parker go down, I think that it's kind of a given that this is his job now, right? And I don't think it should be that way. I don't think anything should just be given, especially in the National Football League. I don't think Leatherwood had a great game, and if I'm gonna be honest, if I had to compare Leatherwood's game to Illuminor's game, of course the sample size for Illuminor was a lot smaller, but I think Illuminor played better. And before Brendan Parker had that bad game on the left side, from all the practice footage that I was seeing of Parker versus Leatherwood in practice and padded practices, I thought Parker was looking better. And it sucked for me to say that because of how bad I wanted Leatherwood to win that job. But at the end of the day, I don't care how bad I want a single player to win a job. I want the Raiders to win. So
Amen.
if it's I always it's a running joke, man. If it's freaking LV Maximus that has to go out there and play right tackle, man, I want him to play right tackle because I want the best guys out there to protect our quarterback. That's just how it is because you got a healthy Derek Carr, you got a bigger chance at winning the Super Bowl than with Jared Stidham. That's how I look at it, man.
Yeah.
I think that Illuminor, in my eyes, with this regime, with McDaniels, with Brasillo, I think that he should get a fair chance with Leatherwood, and I think he will, because this organization doesn't have any specific ties to Leatherwood. They didn't draft him, so they can kind of put these guys on a clean slate. It's not like last year where they drafted him, so they kind of feel some loyalty or some, I don't know, they kind of feel like they have to see if it works out. For this regime, they don't have to see none of that because they didn't draft this guy.
But
So,
what they have done is they understand where Alex was taken. They
mhm.
understand the opportunity that Alex was given. And the Raiders and Josh McDaniels and Coach Brasillo, they did their part. right? They're like, look, Alex, we're going to give you this opportunity to go out
Yep,
here and compete for this right tackle spot. Now, it's up to you to hold that down. And that's where I'm starting to see Alex Leatherwood, and I'm curious to see how he takes this competition for the next 3 weeks. Because just because Brandon Parker went down, this thing ain't done. Jermaine Illuminor has earned the right to go out there and compete. And I think when you're talking about what puts the Raiders in the best situation to win week one, you have to talk about Jermaine Illuminor in that mix, especially when it
for
comes to
sure.
pass pro. So moving forward, it's going to be a very, very intriguing competition. I thought that Hall of Fame game, it was very vanilla, very bland, but you
On
got to see a lot of,
offense.
yeah, yeah. On defense, I love what Patrick Graham showed. I mean, he showed a multitude of stuff: 3-4,
Hmm.
base, nickel. I mean, he blitz packages, which I love what Patrick Graham showed. But look, offensive side of the football, there's obviously a competition heating up at the wide receiver room. You've got Tyron Johnson, Matt Collins, Keelan Cole, Demarcus Robinson. I've been open and honest that look, I like Matt Collins when it comes to work ethic and his ability to practice really hard. I've always preached though, you could be the best person at practice, but if you can't translate it over to the football field, there's a problem. Okay. And
For sure.
for me personally, that first preseason game was a little bit underwhelming. Now it's extremely early, but to have a flag and one catch for -1 yards, to me, it just looked like Tyron Johnson was bringing the energy. He looks like a
Hmm.
guy who's really competing and wanting to go out there and earn that spot. Uh, he just brought a little bit of juice that I felt like the other guys didn't bring. Now, Keelan Cole, I thought actually played pretty well, in and out of his releases pretty well. Had a few concentration drops that it's still early, so those things have to get cleaned up. In your opinion, and when it comes to this wide receiver room, who is your guy right now, and who do you think is going to emerge?
In terms of what being the starting Z opposite of
Yeah,
Devontae.
yeah, and essentially that. And is there a surprise cut candidate? Could Matt Collins be one of those guys that you could see being a surprise cut? Is Demarcus Robinson? What do you got?
Well, if we're gonna make surprises, I'd say that Keelan Cole would be a surprise.
Hmm.
But I also think that before camp started and we just looked at this roster on paper, I thought that Keelan Cole was my clear cut. He's the guy starting opposite of of Devontae. I thought before camp, I thought that that was easy, right? A guy who's consistently had 700, 650, 800 yards, 9 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns. I was like, this is his number two receiver
Right.
by definition, right?
Yeah.
But then you look at the teams that he played on, and it was like, when has he ever had to compete with a Demarcus Robinson, with a Hunter Renfro, with a
Mhm.
Devontae Adams? He's never had to do that because he's been on the Jaguars and the Jets. No disrespect, but
Right.
that's the situation that he's been on, right? Um, Keelan Cole for me, I still think that right now, um, he is he's my guy to start on the outside. Now, come week one, I think that it'll be Tyron Johnson. And the reason why is because ever since last season when we got him, there was two things. This is my story with Tyron Johnson. 2020, I see him absolutely obliterate Keyshawn Nixon and burn him for a touchdown. And Keyshawn Nixon had a 22-yard cushion. 22 yards. He was back 22 yards and got burnt for a touchdown.
Mhm.
You don't see that too often,
No.
right?
Yeah.
Now with Tyron Johnson, there's two things that he needs to fix, and that is his sideline footwork and his concentration drops. Those are two things that he needs to focus on, and that's always things that he's been to focus on, and that's why the Chargers ended up letting him go.
Yep. Yep.
But if you want somebody that is a playmaker that can make that big play, that can stretch the field, there's two guys. Demarcus Robinson has done it with Kansas City. He's been a bailout guy for Mahomes. But Tyron Johnson, he is a guy that he
Mhm.
will take the top off. I think that Tyron Johnson, in my eyes, that's who I want to start opposite of Devontae Adams week one, because then you have the most complete offense in the NFL, hopefully because your offensive line is holding up. But I don't think that anybody can compete with the 4-3 speed of Johnson, with the
Mhm.
route running of Devontae Adams, with the intelligence of Hunter Renfro, with the matchup nightmare of Darren Waller, with the backfield running back by committee with Zeus, Jacobs, Drake. I don't think that anybody in this league can match up with that. I don't think so.
No, and when we're looking at these games early on, we can always nitpick the concentration drops. I do think a lot of that has to do. Look, these guys didn't practice 3 days before the game.
Hmm.
A lot of excitement. That room is full of competition right now, and each one of those guys are feeling that. Um, but what Tyron Johnson did flash on tape is all those abilities that we were talking about this entire offseason.
He
He
got
has that.
open.
Yeah, he has that one thing that you can't coach, and he might have dropped that ball, right? Okay, and that is something he struggled with the Chargers.
Hmm.
However, what he showed is he has the ability to get behind these defenses. And if you're Josh
Hmm.
McDaniels, you're taking a look at that, especially when you're talking about a guy who can open up the defenses and open up underneath the middle of the field and all these under routes for Devontae and Hunter and Darren. Tyron Johnson has a real opportunity to be a real go-to weapon for the Raiders in this offense. So he's got to put it together. Obviously, he's not all the way there, but I would say if you had to tell me right now, I think it's Tyron Johnson's job to lose.
His job to lose.
I think it is.
Okay, I
I
like
think
that.
I think because look at the roster, bro. Matt Collins out there, he looks a little slow.
No, he looks very slow. He
Let's
looks
be real.
extremely slow.
He looks a little slow. Demarcus Robinson, he's shown it. I think that he can make this roster. I want to see a little bit more from him as well because I think he has the talent. I just want to see it a little bit more. Uh,
Hmm.
and Keelan Cole, like we talked about it earlier, his production, he's had production in the National Football League. So on paper, it looks like he should be the guy, right? But when you had them all on the field collectively together, Tyron Johnson just brought more. Like he brought juice, he brought an energy, he brought 4-3 speed to the table.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's just going to be interesting to watch it play out.
Yeah, in my opinion, I feel like you said, it's very early. But if this becomes a trend for Matt Collins, I'm gonna be honest.
I
Kind of
think
like with Keelan Cole. Keelan Cole's never really had much competition on the wide receiver room, but realistically, who has Matt Collins competed with?
exactly.
Devontae Parker. Devontae Parker got traded. Like
Hmm.
Matt Collins dipped as soon as Tyreek Hill got there. Jalen Waddle was clearly the standout guy, and of course, that's what they drafted him to be. But I'm gonna be honest. I want guys on a 53-man roster that every single one is going to make an impact. I'm gonna be honest. If you're a great player in the locker room, I don't really care for that because we got coaches for that.
Fact.
We have coaches for that. So
Facts.
you could be the best guy. Great. I hope you continue to be the best guy. But honestly, in this league, we need production, and we need Super Bowls, man. And I think that Matt Collins, he's a guy that we've heard all the best things, but I mean, I'm not really with I'm a great practice player but can't show it. Like
Exactly.
why did Brian Edwards get traded? He was doing good in practice every single year. He gets the NFL. Derek Carr said he reminds him of Devontae Adams the way he goes up and grabs that ball. Gets into the actual game time, he's dropping passes left and right. He gets shipped off. You can be good in practice, but we need you to be good under them lights. And I think that Tyron Johnson provides a great spark. I think that Demarcus Robinson, he's also a guy that can bail out a quarterback with a crazy pass and go up and grab it. Keelan Cole, I mean, just the way he got smacked and held onto the football, like dude, he
Right.
he can ball too. And I think the only one who didn't show anything was Matt Collins.
Hmm.
He looks slow, and I really don't see. Okay, let me put it like this, right? Let's take Devontae Adams out of the picture. I honestly, when we're in the red zone, I see Jacobs getting the football before Hollins, Renfro getting the football before Hollins, Foster Moreau getting the football before Hollins. I'm gonna be honest. I would even see what's his name, Demarcus Robinson on a quick screen get
Foster
a
Moreau.
yeah. I think that these guys all get the football before Hollins, and everybody's talking about, oh, he's gonna help us in the red zone, dude. This is one of the best red zone coordinators the league has ever seen, and I mentioned four guys there before Devontae Adams, before Darren Waller. So we got six guys
Bro, you were just
before.
you are reiterating everything like what I've been talking about because Mac Hollins does not move that needle for me, and he
No.
was my surprise. And I don't even know if it's a surprise. He's just my cut candidate at that
Hmm.
wide receiver room, bro. And I was getting hate for it. Like, are you kidding me? Look at the work he's putting in training camp, and bro, all that sounds cute, but it's what's done on the film.
Hmm.
And if you're going to tell me a guy that had 200 yards for the Miami Dolphins and 2 touchdowns, if you're going to allocate a roster spot on this roster to a guy like that, I mean, that means something probably went wrong in that wide receiver room, if you're asking me.
And
You
and to your point, right? People are saying how much he offers on special teams. Well, we don't win that game last week of the season without Tyron Johnson making that special teams play and punching the ball out for a
right,
fumble. So
right.
if we're gonna say that somebody can also offer versatility on the special teams, hey, Tyron Johnson can do it too. Now here's my thing with Tyron Johnson. One of the biggest reasons why the Chargers let him go was because supposedly he did not want to play special teams. So
Hmm.
they let him go because of that. Well, guess what? Comes to the Raiders and he ends up being a great special teamer for us, returning kicks as a gunner. I'm gonna be honest. Mac Hollins is nowhere near the speed for a gunner.
No,
Ain't no way he's about to be chasing down freaking what are the returners in this league? Freaking, I don't know. All the returners that are in this league, he's not chasing these guys downfield. The only reason why Zay Jones stayed on this roster for so goddamn long was because he could play gunner. So I mean, bro, like I like everybody on this. I even like Matt Collins, but I don't see him as a guy that we can go to. All right, quick screen. We need you to get this. You're too slow for that. We saw
right,
him. He lost a yard on the screen.
right.
I don't
He didn't
see him
even
as a guy.
fight. He just went
Yeah,
down straight to he. Bro, it was pathetic. It was
and
pathetic.
and and I don't I don't see him as a guy that's actually going to get the football in the red zone because we just named four guys before we got to Devontae Adams and Darren Waller. So essentially,
Right.
that's six players that is before Mac Hollins. I don't care how good you are in practice. I'm gonna be so real with you, bro.
And
Like
not to and what is in his game that separates him from any of the other guys? We talked about Tyron with the 4-3 speed and the special teams ability. Keelan Cole, the ability to attack the sidelines, a guy who's good over the middle of the football field. Demarcus Robinson has bailed the Chiefs out before, has posted big games, showed and flashed the ability to get behind defenses as well.
he killed
What does
us
Mac
for almost
what
200 yards.
yeah, what does Mac Hollins? I mean, everybody's always like, well, he beat us in the with the Arden Key face mask. I'm like, that's the biggest
Arden
highlight of
Arden
that.
Arden Key beat
Arden
us.
Key. Yeah, bro. Like
Yeah,
Matt Collins just don't separate himself from me. You know what I'm saying? It just
yeah.
he doesn't bring that much to the table. But moving over real quick into the running back room, I won't keep you too long. I appreciate you, and I know
No,
everybody
most
in the
definitely I got
chat.
time. I'm good.
Okay. So the running back room,
Mhm.
I thought this was pretty interesting, right? Because everybody had a pretty good showcase, right? And a guy who's cracking into that lineup and to me, if Josh McDaniels is true to his word, right? And he's talking about regardless if you're drafted in the first round, regardless if you're a high ticketed free agent, you're undrafted or you're a low bargain bin free agent, the best football players are going to play on this team. I want to see if that holds true when it comes to a guy like Kenyon Drake. I know he's holding a big dead cap hit, but if Amir Abdullah is able to put consistent games together, okay, he's really earning an opportunity to be in that topic of conversation of who are we keeping here in this running back room? Because if you ask me, Amir Abdullah is working. And even coming out today in practice, I mean, you see that red zone touchdown catch
Mhm.
on Denzel Perryman thrown by Jared Stidham. And I mean, Amir Abdullah is just kind of turning heads in this offense. And I think he's one of those guys who's earning an opportunity in this offense. What do you think about that room? What do you think about Drake and Abdullah? What's your kind of your opinion on that?
I think that I think Amir Abdullah makes this roster regardless, and it's funny how you said that you were being hated about your Mac Hollins take. I wasn't necessarily being hated, but I was definitely the minority when I was talking about Amir Abdullah.
Right,
I
right.
I said this. I said, but when we signed him, I this is what I said. Regardless of where he's listed as a running back, receiver, special teamer, he's going to make this roster, and the reason why is because he can be a special teamer, a receiver, a running back. He can do all of that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you
Right.
look at Kenyon Drake, well, he can run in between the numbers, but he also has that. that route running. We saw it against the Broncos. Like that dude, he can route up what's his name, a linebacker. He could do a
Right.
linebacker pretty dirty. But at the end of the day, this is how I view the running back position as a whole in the National Football League. I think unless you have a top three running back, you have to go with running back by committee. So you have to do whoever's the best on that week, whoever has the best week of practice, whoever has the best week of preparation, they get the look because running backs can be found literally on the outside of the stadium. You can find a running back anywhere,
Hmm.
anywhere. So I think that with this group, Austin Walter is gone, even though he had a good game. Austin Walter gets cut. You know, it's just how it's gonna
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that Amir Abdullah makes this roster regardless. Kenyon Drake, I don't think that financially it makes sense for us to move on from him. So I don't
Right.
think that we will.
Right.
Because if you look at it, if I remember correctly, and I'm pretty sure I am right on this, we restructured his contract
Yep.
in a way that we're going to be paying him for the next 3 years, and he's not even going to be on the roster. Like this year, he's getting, I believe, 4 million. No, this year he's getting 3 million. Next year he's getting two. The year after that he's getting one, and the year after that he's getting another $1 million. So for the next 3 years, we're going to pay Kenyon Drake, and we could just let him go, but then we're gonna have to pay all 8 million this year, and then we just it's just bad business. Like, um, it
But
depends
you,
though.
but is that something that you just wash your hands of, right? Like if he's not the guy and you're already going to have to pay this guy the money, and while we have 20, what is it, 21, $22 million in cap space, yes, we have needs that we have to address, but if that Super Bowl window's open and Kenyon Drake is not going to be a utilized, if he's not going to be worth $8 million worth of value to your offense, do you just stash him because you made this commitment? Or are you just saying, hey, let's just get rid of this $8 million right off the bat and let's move into next year and not even worry about it? I think it is something that the Raiders do have to look at because
I
either way, you're going to be paying this guy.
Yes, either way you're gonna be playing this guy, but I think that if there's any trick that Josh McDaniels could learn and take away from his time in New England is finessing the system. Okay, and there's one way that you can make this whole thing work with Kenyon Drake. The way you can make it work with Kenyon Drake is the smallest injury, place him on IR. He
Mm,
frees up a roster spot. You only pay him his $3 million this year, and then he's gone.
okay.
So technically, you're not shipping him off to another team and maybe getting a seventh round pick. Instead, you just go out, minor injury, place him IR. His season is done. You give him his $3 million, and now he frees up a roster spot. Whether that roster spot can be another running back or another linebacker, another defensive tackle, however you want to use that roster spot at that point, that's all you. But I think that if there's one thing that Josh McDaniels and Ziegler should kind of take away from their time in New England is finessing the system, and they've done that a lot. And I think that that's probably your best way that you can kind of, um, you know, manage that Kenyon Drake idea if he's not up to par with the rest of the roster.
So say New Orleans calls and they want Kenyon for a seventh. Would you do it?
No, I don't. I wouldn't do it. I don't think that a seventh round pick honestly is as valuable as putting us in the negative $6 million.
I agree.
I don't
I
think
agree.
so.
Shout out to Dirty Raiders. Shout out to the chat. Everybody in the chat, man. Go smash the like button. Go subscribe to the channel if this is your first time here. I know we're getting a lot of new eyes tonight, and I appreciate Andy for coming on to the show. If you guys, I'm sure all of you guys are subscribed to Andy. But if you guys aren't, head over to his channel and subscribe to him. We're talking all things Raiders. Um, Andy, is there anything else? Do you got any questions for me? What's going on?
Yeah, I got one. I got one question
All right, what's up?
on this competition that we got. We know that. I mean, we know that Merrick's going to be the starter, but what would you say behind Deron Harmon? What is the safety? What is how are you ranking the safety system right now? Besides Deron Harmon and Trayvon Merrick being those starters, right? What is your list for the safeties? So you
Okay.
got
I'm
Gillespie,
Yep.
Teamer. Um, who else is out there? Gillespie, Teamer, Polamau,
Farley, is he playing back there?
Matthias Farley. Yep.
Okay, so honestly, my take, I'm sure you have a similar one. If you're talking about Jonathan Abram, look, the kid's got to be down more towards the line of scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to get disruptive. I'd honestly like to see Patrick Graham utilize him with blitz concepts a lot more. I think that's an aspect of his game where it could probably help Jonathan Abram a little bit. Um, so yeah, I want him more down towards the line of scrimmage. I think that's pretty obvious. A guy who I wasn't hearing a ton from Andy in training camp was Tyree Gillespie, and it was making me wonder, like, where's this guy falling on the depth chart? Uh, but in the Hall of Fame game, going back and watching the film, I actually thought Tyree Gillespie actually played pretty well. If you're talking about a backup free safety, we were kind of talking about it at the top of the show of how that's a kind of open competition, right? Once you get out of Harmon and Merrick, and you could throw Abram in there, I guess, just due to contract and situation. Um, that's an open competition. I'd like to see what Roderick Teamer could do. I'd like to see a couple of his reps.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, though, I like Tyree Gillespie. I like Tyree Gillespie behind um, Merrick, just based off of what I seen a week ago. A lot of that's still up in the air. I want to see these guys go up against the best competition possible. I thought Tyree Gillespie got more burn with the initial, what you could say was the starters for the Jaguars. I'd like to see Farley get in there a little bit. I thought he was aggressive in the tackling. Roger Teamer, like I said, emerged a little bit last year. So if I had to guess right now, I would say it's Tyree Gillespie for me. What do you think?
I like that, man. I think Tyler Gillespie, ever since we drafted him out of Missouri, I was surprised that we drafted him because we took like three safeties in that draft. But I really like Gillespie, right? So Gillespie is on that play where we caused the fumble, but there's even another play where we do get beat. They got a really good play by the quarterback. He drops a dime right in that cover two beater in that cushion between the safety and the corner. They ran a really good concept. They ran their slot receiver on a streak. They ran their freaking running back on a shallow route to take the attention from the cornerback, and then they ran their tight end on a nice corner, and
Yep.
and
It
it
was
was right. It
beautiful.
was yeah.
And
It
the
was a
quarterback dropped it right in the bucket
yeah. It
too.
was it
It
was a
was beautiful.
phenomenal play by the Jacksonville Jaguars, but you saw Gillespie just flying down there, and he makes a big hit, but there's a big weight difference between the 265-pound tight end and the 190-pound Gillespie, right? So it was a big hit. He kind of the tight end didn't fall immediately, but then the outside corner just ended up making up the rest of the tackle. But I like Gillespie a lot. I do want to see more of him. Although I like Gillespie, I think that in my eyes, Roderick Teamer is my guy right behind him.
Mm,
Right behind Merrick and Deron Harmon. Now we
yeah.
didn't see him because of that collision that him and Abram had in practice, but I really, really, really like what Roger Teamer showed last year. And he's another guy on special teams. He looks good. On top of that, somewhat like Bryce Cosby, but a little bit more polished. He can play down in the slot and he can come down in the alley and make a lot of tackles. So I like Roger Teamer.
Yeah, dude, I'm glad that we see that pretty similar. I mean, Gillespie and Team are probably my guys. Outside of that, the guys are kind of on the outside looking in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, before we wrap this up, is there any moves on the offensive line that you expect that the Raiders to go out and make? Could you see them go and grab a Tevin Jenkins or any of these guys that are out there on the market? Do you think that they, in my opinion, I'd imagine that they stay pretty patient, and if they want to pick up a guy to kind of develop one of these teams that end up releasing a tackle that they have their eye on for depth, maybe that's what kind of move that they make. I don't necessarily think that they're going to go out and get a Daryl Williams, but I could be wrong. What's your opinion on that right tackle situation?
Yeah, I don't think they pick up anybody. I think they keep it
Yeah,
all in house.
yeah,
I think they keep it all in house. I mean, regardless of Brendan Parker, even though they did speak pretty highly of Brendan Parker when they first got the job, and sounded like they were excited on trying to get something out of Brendan Parker that the other regime hasn't been able to. But I think that you have enough competition right now. If you allow Illuminor to really get a fair shot with Leatherwood at that spot, I think that me personally, the only thing that I would like them see change is move Thayer Munford back to left tackle. I don't like I
Yeah.
don't yeah
Yes.
I don't agree with Thayer Munford at the right side. I think that they're kind of just giving him those looks because that's where the biggest question mark on the offensive line is. So they were just trying to see if he can for whatever reason just out of nowhere outperform everybody, which I don't think will happen. But I think where he could show lots of value is being that tackle that can back up Colton Miller on an emergency situation because in college, this man was a top four tackle. If he would have went out in the draft in 2021, he ended up going back to school, finishing out what he needed to do, but they ended up at Ohio, I believe they ended up making him play guard for 2022, and it just killed his draft stock. But I really want to see him um, go back to the left side. That's probably the only thing that I want to see them do on the offensive line. If they can, go get Daryl Williams. That's the clear cut guy.
Right.
Good right tackle, a little bit worse right guard, but he is still very very good. But I just want to see competition, man. I think that you need competition in every aspect.
Hmm. Well, I think that the chat absolutely love having us on, man. I think that they really enjoyed it. They got a good show tonight. No other content creator are even close to these two rated greats. You two rock. I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate Andy for taking the time out of his day and giving me the opportunity to sit down and talk to him. I've been waiting to talk to him. I love talking to X's and O's. So hopefully, moving forward, man, this isn't our last conversation. I appreciate you coming on. Raider Nation, if you guys haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. Let these guys know too, man. If you ever want to see more content moving forward, just let them know. I'm over here working, and I know that they are too. So if you guys haven't, go over, subscribe to my brother Andy. Chat, I appreciate you guys. All of you guys, go smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if it's your first time here. Raider Nation, what a show. What a time. I appreciate all of you guys for pulling up. Much love. And as always, just win, baby.